Have you ever felt like you're right on the verge of a breakthrough, but you're just stuck? Kind of like you're inside a shell of old habits you can't quite get out of? Well, it turns out there's an ancient teaching that uses that exact metaphor, a chick breaking out of an egg, to describe the path to real transformation. So let's get into this amazing story and see what it can teach us today.
Okay, so our story starts in a place called Kapilavatthu. This is the homeland of the Sakyan people. And they've just finished building this beautiful new assembly hall. It's totally pristine, brand new, no one has ever used it before. So they go to the Buddha with this really special request. They ask him, and only him, to be the very first person to use the hall. The idea is that his presence will bless the space, making sure it brings them well-being and happiness for a long, long time. It's just a wonderful sign of their deep respect. The Buddha accepts, of course, and he teaches the Sakyans late into the night. But then something very human happens. He starts to feel his back getting sore. So he turns to his most loyal disciple, Ananda, and says, "Hey, my back is aching. I'm going to lie down. Can you please take over and explain the path of a Trini?" And right there, that's where our real lesson kicks off. This is the big question that Ananda now has to answer. What exactly is this path? What does a person who's in training, what they call a Sekha, what do they actually do to get that breakthrough? Ananda starts with this absolutely fascinating core idea. He says the whole path, everything they're about to talk about, is for abhinibhidaya. It's a Pali word, and it means for breaking out or for bursting forth. So right from the get-go, the entire journey is framed as this powerful act of hatching from an egg. All right, so if the whole point is to break out, how do you do it? What does the trainee have to do to warm up that egg to get it strong enough to finally hatch? Well, Ananda lays out a really clear path for us. The official name for this is Sekho Patipato. Sekho means a trainee, someone who's learning, and Patipato means the path or the way of practice. So this is literally the trainee's path. It's a step-by-step guide for anyone who is ready and able to break through their own shell. Ananda outlines a bunch of these foundational practices. It all starts with virtue. Then you learn to guard your senses, be moderate with food, and stay alert and wakeful. This creates the perfect base to then grow 7 essential good qualities and, eventually, achieve these really deep states of meditation. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these. Let's start with one of the most practical pieces of advice, guarding the senses. You can think of your senses as the doors to your mind. So, how does a trainee manage what's coming in and what's going out? Ananda explains that it's all about exercising restraint over all 6 of your senses. So when a trainee sees something or hears something or even just thinks a thought, they don't get swept away by it. They don't grab onto the flashy parts or let their mind spin out. Instead, they just stay aware in this really skillful way. So why do this? What's the point? Well, the goal is to stop unhelpful states like greed or anxiety from just flooding your mind. By guarding these doors, the trainee keeps this inner balance and calm, which creates the absolute perfect conditions for wisdom to start growing. Okay, so this practice of guarding the mind builds a really stable foundation. And on top of that, the trainee actively works on developing 7 essential qualities that are basically the fuel for the whole journey. These are like the trainee's internal superpowers. They have faith that awakening is possible. They have a conscience that keeps them from doing harm. They're prudent, so they understand consequences, and they mix deep learning with tons of energy, mindfulness, and wisdom. All of this makes them strong and totally capable of breaking through. And this brings us right back to that brilliant metaphor. Think about it. A hen doesn't have to sit there and wish for her chicks to hatch. She just has to do her job, sit on the eggs, keep them warm, and protect them. It's the same for the disciple. They don't have to anxiously strive for a breakthrough. If they just sit on their practice, cultivating virtue, being mindful, developing these good qualities, the hatching will happen all by itself. It's just the natural result of creating the right conditions. And when those conditions are finally perfect, that's when the breakthrough begins. The shell starts to crack. And not because you're forcing it, but because the life inside is finally ready to come out. The very first crack in that shell is a huge one. It's a profound kind of knowledge, the ability to remember your own past lives. And we're not talking about a belief. We're talking about a direct, crystal clear memory. 1 life, then 2, then hundreds of thousands of lives, with all the little details. The second breakthrough is gaining what's called the divine eye. This is the power to see for yourself, directly, how the law of cause and effect, or karma,
actually works. The trainee can see beings passing away and being reborn, some into happy lives, some into painful ones, and it's all based on their own actions.
And then finally, the chick breaks completely free from the shell. This is the ultimate goal. It's the complete and total end of all the mental junk, the kinkers they're called, that cause us to suffer. This is what total freedom looks like. But how does all this incredible knowledge connect back to the daily practices we started with? Well, the teaching wraps up by weaving these two parts, the everyday practice and the incredible payoff, into one seamless whole. It's presented like you need two wings to fly. On one side, you've got karana, which is conduct. That's all the practice, the virtue, the sense restraint, all those good qualities. It's the walking the walk. And on the other side, you've got vidya, or knowledge. That's the three breakthroughs, the direct seeing of how things really are. You absolutely need both to get off the ground. So, the ideal state is to become Vijaya Charana Sampanno. That's someone who is perfectly complete in both knowledge and conduct. The practice has led to deep insight, and now that insight guides the practice. The two have become totally inseparable. And just to really hammer home how important this is, Ananda quotes a verse from a powerful deity, Brahma Sanankumara, a verse that the Buddha himself approved of. And it says that this person, the one who has perfected both how they live and what they know, is truly the greatest being among all gods and humans. And that brings the whole thing right back to us, doesn't it? When you look at your own life, what's the shell that you're trying to break out of? And looking at this path, from guarding your senses to cultivating energy, which practice feels like the one that could give you the strength to finally crack it open?